2021. I thought it would be an opportune time during this season of giving and sharing to give a further update on some key fiscal and economic matters. However, before I commence my main remarks, I would like to express my sincere appreciation once again to all of our frontline and dedicated community workers who have played a critical role in helping to deal with the challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic that we have once again had to face in this last year. This pandemic has had an impact on all of us, but once again, the people of Bermuda have demonstrated their resilience and fortitude as they have worked together and with the government to assist persons in the community in health and financial matters in particular. As I highlighted in my most recent ministerial statements presented in the House of Assembly, there have been a number of fiscal and economic challenges that the government of Bermuda have had to face over the course of the last fiscal year. In relation to the external matters, significant time has been spent working with industry partners and others on actions related to the OECD Global Tax Initiative. The ministry team has been closely involved in the discussions with the various working groups of the OECD to ensure that Bermuda's interests are appropriately represented. We remain committed to progressing this matter with appropriate collaboration and communication with industry and other stakeholders to ensure an outcome that is beneficial to all relevant parties. In addition, considerable work has been done to ensure that the economic substance framework has been appropriately and effectively implemented. We have undergone a number of assessments this year in areas related to these global tax initiatives, and we continue to work closely with the OECD and the EU to progress these matters and to demonstrate our commitment to a high level of compliance. The National Anti-Money Laundering Committee agencies have focused this year on progressing AML/ATF matters in preparation for our May 2022 follow-up review on the actions taken in response to the recommendations contained in the 2020 AML/ATF Mutual Evaluation Report. They've also worked on updating Bermuda's National Money Laundering National Risk Assessment, and the final report on this is expected to be published early in 2022. In relation to AML matters, it should also be highlighted that Bermuda has recently taken up the baton to chair the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, otherwise known as CFATF. This body, whose members include most of the countries in the Caribbean, is responsible for, among other things, working with its members to improve compliance and international AML/ATF requirements, including through the Mutual Evaluation Program. The work being done in addressing all of these international initiatives is critical to the economy of Bermuda, given its relevance and reputation as a substantial economic center with industry of global importance. By preserving our quality reputation, we can continue to retain and attract quality international business, which is a substantial contributor to government revenues, providing valuable income that can be used to fund social services and other key government initiatives. In addition to the knock-on effect of spending by this sector in other areas of the economy, positively impacts all of us. Overall, this sector of the economy has proved to be a source of stability and support during the challenges caused by the pandemic, and as a result, which will be highlighted later, some areas of government revenue have remained strong or shown slight improvement. On December the 10th, the last day of Parliament for the first session, I presented a ministerial statement providing the mid-year performance assessment and information on the revised revenue and expenditure for this fiscal year. In my statement, I was able to provide an update on key economic statistics which showed increases over 2020 levels in certain significant areas, such as employment income, imports, visitor spending, construction activity, and retail sales for the first 3 quarters of calendar 2021. Key to these improvements were the measures taken to keep Bermuda open for business in 2021, after severe disruptions in 2020 to combat the spread of COVID-19. Although these figures are generally below the 2019 pre-COVID-19 levels, it does demonstrate that the economy is moving in the right direction. The original revenue budget estimates for 2021-22 was $998.9 million. Having completed a further review of the November performance, the revised estimate for 2021-22 revenue is $1.015 billion, an increase of $16.3 million. As noted in that ministerial statement, key factors contributing to the revenue estimates include increases in customs duty, stamp duty, and civil aviation receipts. Not surprisingly, there have been decreases in passenger and transportation infrastructure taxes due to the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the tourism sector. However, payroll taxes are still forecast to be on budget, given in particular the previously mentioned resilience in the international business sector. In relation to expenditures, the original current account expenditure for 2021-22 was forecast to be $903 million. Having carefully assessed expenditures to date, as well as the upcoming critical commitments, current expenditures for fiscal 2021-22, excluding debt service of $127.5 million, are now projected to increase by $41.4 million, which will revise total current expenditures to $944.4 million. This increase represents unbudgeted additional items of $56.4 million, which is partially offset by $15 million in identified cost savings. The additional expenditures relate primarily to the impact of ongoing COVID-19 related challenges, as well as legacy issues such as the airport revenue guarantee and Morgan's Point. The government had budgeted some spending on temporary unemployment benefits, but because of the continuing pressures from COVID-19, more funding has been allocated to provide critical support to impacted individuals. There has also been recognition in determining the estimates of the ongoing need for further relief in other areas, including financial assistance and payroll tax and customs duty relief, to provide additional help to individuals and businesses. Additional support has also been required for the hospital. I have continuously highlighted throughout the year that it is imperative that the budget deficit of $124.7 million for fiscal 2021-22 is not exceeded given the high level of public debt. It is important that I reiterate what I've stated on a number of occasions, namely that a breach of the deficit target should be seen as a serious issue, as it could have a potentially negative impact on the cost of refinancing government debt in the future and on Bermuda's credit rating. The importance of continued prudent and disciplined fiscal and economic management and adherence to fiscal targets has been reinforced in recent rating agency reports and in guidance provided by the Fiscal Responsibility Panel and the Financial Policy Council following their recent deliberations. To ensure the deficit target is not breached, as noted above, expenditure levels have been adjusted to reflect the $15 million in savings through work done by the Ministry of Finance in conjunction with the Cabinet and other ministries. The majority of these savings will result from vacant positions throughout the government, which have yet to be recruited. Steps are also being taken to ensure that overtime is further managed and limited to use in essential matters only. Capital expenditures, which was originally estimated at $92.9 million, will be reduced by $25 million to $67.9 million. This new level is in line with the actuals in 2019-20 and 2020-21 and appropriately reflects work to date and what is anticipated, as progress in this regard has been impacted by resource shortages related to the COVID-19 pandemic. These actions, along with the expected increase in revenue, will allow for the required additional expenditures without compromising achievement of the deficit target. It is anticipated that the pre-budget report will be presented in early January. This will provide insight into how the government is progressing proposing to address some long-standing challenges, work on which must be done. These items include tax reform, public sector pension reform, infrastructure upgrades, and health reforms, including the underfunding of the GEHI plan. The budget for 2022-23 will also have to address climate-related matters, the continued fiscal constraints related to the high levels of debt, the likely ongoing realities of COVID-19, and continued challenges resulting from external tax and other relevant initiatives. Finding appropriate solutions will not be easy, but Bermuda has continually demonstrated that we can work together in times of challenge to protect and preserve this beautiful island that is our home. In closing, I would like to thank my cabinet colleagues, the Ministry of Finance team, and all of the employees in the public service who have played a positive role in the progress made to date in relation to fiscal and economic matters. I'm grateful for the support and collaboration that we continue to receive from our public sector partners as well. Last but certainly not least, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to you, the people of Bermuda, who have continued to demonstrate your strength in times of adversity, courage in the face of continuing unknowns, and support in navigating the ongoing fiscal and economic challenges. During this holiday season, I would like to wish each of you a safe and enjoyable holiday. Thank you.
Sean Connolly from the Royal Gazette. Cutting back the wage bill by 25 million, not filling posts, how is that going to impact on everyday people and their lives?
Well, the post number is actually $15 million, and so these positions have not been filled, and many of them have not been filled for a long period of time. And so I don't foresee any real impact on everyday people.
Well, surely they should have been filled by now.
There's a debate as to whether or not they should have been filled by now. They've certainly been actively recruited in some instances. In other cases, they have not been. But the government has to take a look at kind of staffing levels at all the times to ensure that the staffing levels are appropriate, but also that fiscal restraint is also being maintained.
You indicated there were tough times ahead with the budget coming up. It's going to be a harsh budget, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's going to be a harsh budget. I haven't finished developing it yet, but we are operating in an environment where the pandemic is continuing. We have seen it have a negative impact on our economy for the last 2 years. It would be unreasonable not to expect that it would have a similar impact going forward. Plus, we have all the other challenges that we have to face with respect to refinancing debt, real fiscal challenges around balancing our budget. And so we're going to need to be making some serious choices in the year ahead.
Could we afford another lockdown?
My sense is that we have, over the course of the last 20 to 24 months, did a lot of learning with respect to the pandemic. Lockdowns have a tremendous economic cost, and they do inhibit our ability to kind of get back up and running as quickly as we'd like to do. I don't foresee a lockdown unless there is an overwhelming of the healthcare system.
Well, there's a lockdown in the Netherlands now, and England is teetering on the brink. So, it could well happen here. Would we be able to afford it if that did happen?
I don't want to engage in speculation around whether a lockdown is going to happen or not and what the attendant costs are going to be. We do know from our prior history that lockdowns actually are difficult on people and they're expensive. And we have put in place protocols for vaccinations and public health measures with respect to masking and all the other rules that should help to mitigate any widespread of any strain of the virus. We do know, based on reporting, that the Omicron virus is, for those persons who are vaccinated and for those persons who are boosted, negligible impact, and for those persons who are fully vaccinated, minor impact. The real risk, of course, is those persons who are not. And so we continue to encourage people to consult with your doctors and explore the opportunity to get vaccinated.
What's the cost of financial assistance now? What's the total that it's gone to?
I don't have a number on the top of my head, but we certainly can get that and come back to you with it.
Okay, you're finance minister. What are your key steps in the economic recovery package then?
For the Ministry of Finance?
Yeah.
There are two initiatives that we have working on. One is related to the interest rates, and the other is related to climate risk finance.
And specifically, what does that mean?
Sorry?
What
this
do you have? What are your measures for an economic boost post-COVID or continuing through COVID?
I'm
How
not
do you
sure
get out of
if
this?
you have attended my prior press conferences in which I've actually made statements on this, but I'll enlighten you in light of the fact that you may not have been. I recently returned from New York in early December. I've been traveling with the BDA, the BSX, and others, promoting Bermuda as a potential center for climate risk finance. Climate risk finance is a new area of finance that's related to all that's going on in the climate space. Bermuda already, by virtue of our reinsurance and insurance industry, is a center that has a lot of expertise in climate-related risk. And so what we're trying to do is promote the idea that the island already has capabilities in this space and that it is a natural place for the adjacent vertical climate risk finance.
People are really being hit in the pocket now by inflation, prices going up. Do you see price controls coming forward at all?
I don't see price controls coming forth. What I do see is that most of our goods are imported from either Canada, the United States, or the UK, who are all experiencing inflation. And so inasmuch as we continue to import goods from those countries because we don't have the natural resources to develop goods for our own, we will actually be importing inflation.
Okay. Do you expect the economy to get worse before it gets better, given COVID and everything?
I think the economy, we have seen by virtue of the numbers that I expressed during the course of the press conference earlier, that numbers are actually improving over last year's levels. My hope is that they will continue to do so.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. I'm just going. Go ahead. Thank you, Minister. That
You're welcome.
concludes today's press briefing. Thank you, members of the public, for joining us today.